I came home after a brutal 24-hour shift, running on caffeine, fumes, and stress, and the key I had used for years suddenly didn't fit. I twisted it again, and again. Still nothing. Then my phone buzzed. A message from my mother-in-law, Linda. "We need $20,000, 0 cents for our anniversary trip. No explanation, no apology, just a demand." That night I slept outside, alone, in the freezing cold. The next morning, my wife Sarah cracked open the door just enough to slide out a plastic container. Inside, cold spaghetti stuck together under a dried layer of tomato sauce. There was a note taped to the top. "Your dinner." That's when something inside me snapped. For most of my adult life, I thought love meant giving. Giving time, giving effort, giving whatever was needed, even when no one asked. I believed that being a man, a husband, meant carrying the weight without complaining. So I gave. I worked hard. I stayed loyal. I kept showing up. When Sarah and I got married, I didn't dream of luxury. I didn't care about tropical vacations, designer clothes, or fancy Instagram-worthy moments. I just wanted a life that felt safe, predictable, a home filled with trust and peace. And I thought I was building that, one shift at a time. My job was far from glamorous. I was a network engineer. That meant fixing technical disasters that no one understood and no one appreciated. Server crashes at 3 a.m., that was me. Resetting routers for people who didn't know what a modem was, still me. Passwords lost by someone who thought 1234 was strong security, yep, me again. I handled every issue, every late call, every stress bomb, because I thought I was doing it for us, for our future. Then Linda, my mother-in-law, moved in. She had just gone through a divorce, and Sarah said she needed a place to stay. Just a few months, she promised. I didn't argue. Family helps family, right? That was my belief too. At first I barely noticed the shift. A few more groceries, a little more noise in the house. It felt temporary. But the months passed. Then a year. Then 2. Before I knew it, 3 full years had gone by, and Linda was still in our home like she owned the place. She wasn't working. She wasn't helping. She was just there. Watching TV all day, ordering takeout, making comments about how tired I looked. The grocery bills doubled, the utilities skyrocketed. I was paying for shopping trips I didn't go on, spa days I didn't approve of, and medical appointments I didn't know about. And every time I brought it up, I got the same phrase thrown back at me. Family supports each other. She said it like a knife wrapped in a hug. Sweet tone, sharp message. If I pushed back, I was the bad guy, the heartless husband, the uptight son-in-law. So I stayed quiet. I let the money drain. I let my energy burn. I let my marriage turn into something I didn't recognize. Sarah stopped asking how my day was. Linda started commenting on how I wasn't romantic anymore. The house no longer felt like mine. It felt like I was a tenant paying rent for space I didn't even get to enjoy. But still, I kept showing up. I kept going to work. I kept believing that things would go back to normal if I just worked a little harder, stayed a little longer, gave a little more. Then one night, everything snapped. I had just pulled a 24-hour shift, no sleep, barely any food, just me running on caffeine and obligation. I got in my car and drove home, eyes half shut, body aching, praying only for a shower and a soft bed. I pulled into the driveway, got out, walked up to the front door, and slid my key into the lock. It didn't turn. I blinked, tried again, nothing. Tried the other way, still nothing. I stood there like an idiot, sweating, heartbeat picking up, thinking maybe I was just too tired, maybe I was using the wrong key. But no, it was the right key. The lock had been changed. Then my phone buzzed. It was Linda. No greeting, no explanation, just one text. 7 words. "We need $20,000, 0 cents. The locks are changed." And in that moment, the truth hit me harder than any night shift ever could. I had been working myself to death to support people who didn't even want me inside my own home. I was still wearing my work badge when I stood outside, too tired to fully understand what was going on. My shoes felt like bricks, my shirt clung to my back, and the ache in my legs had long stopped feeling like pain. It was just numb. All I wanted was a shower, a warm meal, and maybe 6 hours of sleep without being woken up by another network failure. But instead, I stood in front of the door to the apartment I'd paid for and realized I couldn't open it. The key didn't work. The lock had been changed. I blinked like maybe I had hallucinated it, like I was just too tired and wasn't turning it right. But no, I had turned it every way and it was definitely changed. I pulled out my phone thinking maybe Sarah left a message or at least a heads up. Nothing. Then a single notification popped up, a text from Linda. It wasn't an apology, it wasn't even an explanation. It was a demand, cold, sharp, like she hadn't just locked me out of my home, but out of my own life. We need $20,000, 0 cents for our anniversary trip. Send it today, or I'll tell Sarah you never deserved her. I stared at the message for a solid minute, waiting for it to change, like maybe I misread it. Maybe it was some sick joke. But that was the real message. That's what she sent me. After 3 years of feeding her, covering for her, staying quiet while she drained Manhouse, was how she decided to repay me. I called Sarah immediately, straight to voicemail. No ring. I texted her, no reply. I tried again and again, like maybe she would pick up on the 4th call, like maybe this was all a misunderstanding, but she never did. That's when I opened my banking app. I had been slowly building an emergency fund over the years, saving bit by bit for whatever life might throw at. USA job loss, a car breaking down, maybe even a future kid's medical bills. It wasn't much, but it was something I was proud of. Until that night, I watched the numbers on the screen and felt my stomach twist. The savings account was nearly drained. The transactions were all there, one after another, like sucker punches. $1,200, 0 cents at a boutique hotel. I hadn't been to a hotel in months. $800, 0 cents at a designer store. Sarah never mentioned shopping. $5,000, 0 cents labeled medical, sent directly to Linda. I didn't even know she had any health issues. And $3,000, 0 cents for a family vacation I wasn't told about, let alone invited to. It hit me then. They hadn't just locked me out physically. They had shut me out completely. Out of decisions, out of their plans, out of my own finances. I sat down on the cold concrete floor outside the apartment, surrounded by silence and the faint hum of a hallway light. I could hear someone's TV through a wall, a laugh track from a sitcom I couldn't name. But all I could focus on was the sound in my head, like a high-pitched ringing that wouldn't stop. My chest felt hollow, like someone had reached in and scraped everything out. I couldn't feel my hands anymore. I couldn't move my legs. But none of that mattered because I wasn't even sure who I was anymore. I wasn't a partner. I wasn't even a person. I was just a walking paycheck. A credit card with a heartbeat. That's all they saw. And just when I thought maybe this night couldn't get worse, I heard the door crack open. My heart jumped for a second, thinking Sarah had come to explain, to apologize, to fix it. But no. She didn't even look at me. Her eyes stayed on the ground, like I wasn't worth meeting. She stepped forward and set down a plastic food container like I was some stray animal she felt obligated to feed. Then, without a word, she shut the door. The lock clicked again. A soft final sound that said everything. I looked down at the container. On top was a sticky note. Just 2 words. Your dinner. That was it. No, are you okay? No, we need to talk. Just leftovers. And that's when I knew. This wasn't my home anymore. Maybe it never was. I stared at the spaghetti, the greasy, cold mess sloshing under the lid of that plastic container. It was sad, lifeless, like it had been sitting out for hours. It wasn't a meal, it was a message. I didn't touch it. I didn't even feel angry in that moment. I didn't cry, didn't yell, didn't break anything. I just sat there, numb. but something in me started to harden. Something cold, something final. I stood up slowly, like my body already knew what I had to do. I reached for my phone, unlocked it, and without a single second of hesitation, I started cutting them out of my life. One tap at a time. First, I logged into the bank app and closed the joint account. I was the primary holder, had been since the beginning. It was my name that opened it, my money that kept it alive. Sarah only had access because I gave it. And now? Access revoked. I drained what was left into my personal account and closed it permanently. Then I called the leasing office. The apartment? It was mine, my name on the lease. I had signed every renewal, paid every month on time, so I told them I was ending it. 30 days notice. They could stay if they wanted, but someone else would have to pick up the tab. No more rent on my dime, no more roof for people who threw me out like trash. After that, I walked to the parking garage. Sarah had been using the car for months while I either biked, caught rides with coworkers, or stood in the rain waiting for buses. But that car was mine, paid for with my checks, insured under my name. I had every receipt. I slid behind the wheel, started the engine, and drove away without once checking the mirror. I didn't need to see the building disappear behind me. It was already gone in my mind. I found a cheap motel across town, a place with a buzzing neon sign, a front desk guy who didn't ask questions, and sheets that smelled like a mix of old smoke and broken dreams. I didn't care. I wasn't there to rest. I was there to figure out how deep this betrayal went. I pulled out my laptop, sat at the wobbly desk under the flickering yellow light, and opened a browser. My fingers moved like they did when I was solving tech crises, fast, focused, methodical. I remembered something Sarah had forgotten years ago. I had helped her set up her Gmail account. She kept forgetting her password, so I had set recovery access under my admin. I typed in one password, an old one she used for everything. One guess. I was in. What I found made my heart stop. It was worse than I imagined. Emails between her and Linda, making jokes about how easy I was to manipulate. "He'll never see it coming," Linda had typed. "Make sure he pays for everything," she added. "He owes you for wasting your time," Sarah replied. There were attachments, photos of shopping bags, selfies at spas, even one where they were toasting cocktails at some beachside bar. I recognized none of the places, none of the purchases. Then came the worst parts. Screenshots of wire transfers I had never approved, and then flirty messages with men I'd never seen before. Men she called baby, babe, my real escape. My hands shook, but I kept going. Buried under a folder labeled drafts, I found the final knife to the chest. A full email thread with a lawyer named James Thompson. Sarah was working with him on a separation agreement, months in the making. My name was right there. The terms? I'd pay full spousal support. I'd split all assets, including the money I'd saved. There was no mention of the emotional damage. No mention of how I had been sleeping 5 hours a night, working weekends, pouring everything into a home they had already emptied from the inside out. No mention of being locked out like I didn't exist. They weren't just planning to leave, they were planning to bleed me dry, take whatever was left, and then smile while they walked away. That moment, staring at that agreement, I realized this wasn't just betrayal. It was a takedown, planned, executed, heartless, and I had walked right into it. But what they didn't see coming, what they never imagined for a second, was that I wouldn't just roll over and take it. They thought I'd cry. They thought I'd beg. They thought I'd be the same tired, broken man they'd been draining for years. But I was done. I wasn't broken. I was focused. I logged back into Sarah's email, went straight to the thread with the lawyer, and replied from her inbox, "Hi James, I've changed my mind. Please hold off on all actions for now. I will discuss this with my husband directly." That was it. Simple, just enough to stall. Then I created a filter rule that auto-sorted any new emails from that lawyer into a hidden folder she wouldn't check. No alerts, no sign anything had changed. As far as he knew, she had ghosted him. And I smiled, because finally, it was their turn to feel the confusion, the panic, the silence. But I wasn't done. I opened our shared cloud drive. Years of photos she never deleted, all those vacations I paid for but never went on. Fancy dinners, spa days, shopping sprees with Linda, and worse, pictures of Sarah out with other men. Her birthday dinner at a restaurant I'd never been invited to. One photo in particular hit hard, her sitting on a guy's lap, laughing like she hadn't a care in the world. That laugh, I used to think it was mine. I saved every image, every video, every screenshot. I created a folder on my hard drive and named it exactly what it was: proof. Then I made the call. I dialed Linda. I didn't yell. I didn't say anything at first. I just let her talk. And boy did she talk. 10 full minutes of her going off ranting about how I was never good enough, how Sarah should left years ago, how I ruined her daughter's life with my boring job and my tired eyes. She even laughed and said Sarah deserved a real man. I hit record. Every word. And when she finally ran out of breath, I said just one thing: "Are you done?" There was silence on the other end. Then I hung up, but I still wasn't finished. There was something else, something they'd forgotten. I had built their entire smart home system. I installed the Wi-Fi, programmed the smart locks, connected the security cameras, even set up the voice-activated speakers in every room. And I never removed myself as the admin. So I logged in. One tap, and I could see everything. Real-time feeds from every room. I clicked into the living room camera and watched them. Sarah pacing, her phone in hand, talking fast. "He's not answering. What if he knows?" she asked. Linda waved her off. "He's too stupid to figure it out. Just keep pretending you care. He'll give in like always." That was the moment. I tapped the microphone icon, and through the living room speaker my voice echoed. "Pretend you care." Sarah screamed and jumped back. Linda dropped her phone. Their heads whipped around like they thought the house itself had turned against them. Then I spoke again. "Did you think I'd never find out? You thought I'd be your fool forever?" They froze. Panic settled into their faces, and I just watched. I didn't yell. I didn't curse. I didn't need to. Because the silence in that room said everything. They were caught. Every lie, every dollar, every secret. It was all out in the open now. They looked around like the walls were closing in, and honestly, in a way, they were. I was done being silent, done being used, and for the first time in years, I wasn't the one afraid. They were. And it felt like justice was finally starting to turn. The next morning, just as I was starting to settle into a new kind of silence, the kind that didn't hurt, they showed up. Sarah, Linda, and their lawyer, James Thompson. They marched into the lobby of my office building like it was some dramatic courtroom scene on TV. Security buzzed me. "Sir, there are 3 people downstairs demanding to speak with you." I didn't ask who. I already knew. I told them to let them in. I waited in the glass conference room, watching them come down the hallway. Sarah looking panicked, Linda looking furious, and James trying to look like he had everything under control. They walked in like a storm. Voices raised, arms waving, fake tears, fake concern, fake everything. They tried to spin it. Linda called it a misunderstanding. Sarah said she was going through something emotionally. James offered polite legal language about resolving things amicably. I didn't say a word. I just reached into my laptop bag, pulled out a small speaker, and hit play. Linda's voice filled the room, sharp and bitter. "He's a loser. We'll drain him dry." Then Sarah's voice in a saved message. "Just tell him you love him. He'll fold. He always does." The air changed in an instant. Sarah's eyes went wide. She covered her mouth. Her tears were real this time. James turned pale. Linda just stared at me like I had betrayed her by not staying broken. I finally spoke. Calm, measured. I looked James right in the eye and said, "Here's what's going to happen. I want $32,000, 0 cents. Full repayment, one-time payment, no contact ever again, or I sue all of you. Sarah, Linda, you for fraud and emotional damage, and I will win. I have everything. I opened a folder on the table, printed screenshots, transaction records, email threads, voice recordings. James didn't even try to argue. He nodded slowly. "We'll make the transfer," he said. "And the agreement?" I asked. "You'll get it by tomorrow," he replied. And just like that, it was done. The next day, $32,000, 0 cents, landed in my account. Right after that, a signed and notarized legal agreement arrived in my inbox. It stated clearly, Sarah and Linda were legally barred from contacting me in any way. No calls, no texts, no third parties, nothing. They were out of my life, gone, for real this time. I didn't respond. I didn't gloat. I didn't need to. I just sat there quietly and let the reality sink in. For the first time in years, I wasn't angry. I wasn't bitter. I wasn't confused. I was free. And it felt nothing like I expected. It wasn't loud or dramatic. It was still, like standing outside after a long storm and realizing the sun's been up the whole time, you just hadn't seen it. I packed up my things and walked out of the office early that day. Got a coffee, sat in a park, watched people live their lives, laugh with friends, read books, walk dogs, and for the first time in forever, I didn't feel invisible. I felt real, like a person again, like someone who had finally remembered his own worth. So if this story made you feel something, if you've ever been the one giving too much and getting nothing back, remember this: it's not weakness to protect yourself, it's survival. And the moment you choose yourself over the people who take you for granted, that's when healing really starts. This one hits the core of the story. It's not about revenge, it's about self-preservation, about realizing that love without limits becomes a trap, that giving endlessly doesn't make you stronger, it makes you empty. Whether you're 18 or 45, learning to say no, to walk away, and to guard your emotional and financial space is a lifelong skill that can save your heart, your mind, and your future. If that spoke to you, stick around. There's more where that came from. Hit subscribe or watch the next story. You're not alone. Not anymore.